Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new and improved edition of 1NG Podcast. I am your host, Chef B, as always, bringing you all the fire from Panther Nation. Do me a favor if you haven't already. Please follow me on X at 1NG underscore podcast. That's 1NG underscore podcast. Also, now available on YouTube and other platforms where you get all your podcast needs. Please smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and help me get this thing rolling. Now, let's get into the show. All right, Panther fans, your boy is back with the new and improved podcast. And y'all, I'm hyped because I've been grinding in the lab and cooking up some fresh gear for the squad. And my goal is to have it drop by the start of the season. We're talking new merc, new vibes, new look. So stay tuned for that, Panther Nation, because we're taking it to the next level. And in today's episode, we're going to dive deep into the 2025 Carolina Panthers defense. I'm breaking down every position group. That's right, every group. D-line, linebackers, secondary, split that into corners and safeties. You know the drill. With a full rundown on each player and what we can expect moving forward. But first, let's set the stage with a quick recap of how the defense performed in 2024. Spoiler alert, it wasn't pretty. So grab some coffee, get your sweet tea, or whatever you're sipping on, and let's get this thing rolling. So let's talk about them 2024 Panthers. Panther Nation, I ain't going to sugarcoat it for you. Our defense had a very tough year last year. Historically bad, in fact. The Panthers finished dead last in total yards, rushing yards, touchdown passes allowed, and points given up. 534 to be exact. That's 31.4 points per game. Yikes. Worst in the league. Woof. We went 5-12, and it felt like every game was a track meet for the other team. The run defense, yikes. We gave up over 3,000 rushing yards at an NFL's worst 5.2 yards per carry. Teams were running through us like a Sunday stroll. Pass defense wasn't much better. Opponents completed 67.92% of their passes and threw 35 touchdowns against us. Our pass rush was stuck in neutral, ranking 29th in sack percentage at 5.69% and dead last in pressure rates. Now, injuries didn't help. Our Pro Bowl stud Derek Brown went down with a meniscus tear in week 1 and only played one game, and obviously that was a gut punch. But shout out to Jadeveon Clowney for holding it down for us with a team high PFF grade of 70.8 with 5.5 sacks and 22 pressures. Not to mention that all stud muffin Sean Robinson also balled out with 80 tackles, and he also had 5.5 sacks, leading all our defensive linemen in tackles. Let's not forget about J.C. Horn, our Pro Bowl corner. He also did his thing, but got some flack considering he ranked 57th among corners by PFF. But, PFF, take it for what you want, despite locking dudes up in man coverage. The rest of the squad, not so good, folks. Low PFF grades across the board and averaged 54.9 players with 300 plus snaps. Not good at all. Only 4 guys even cracked 60, but that was last year, folks. Panther Nation, we flipped the script for 2025 with some big moves, new draft picks, free agents, and let's not forget Derek Brown back in the mix. So let's break down this revamped defense position by position. So we're going to start with the big boys up front, just like we did with the offensive group breakdown. Because why? I say it all the time. Football is won in the trenches. Games are won in the trenches. So let's get after these big boys. Like I said, after giving up 3,000 rushing yards last year, this group is the key to turning things around And as I already have mentioned, if you follow me on X, my main position group that I'll be following all season long, considering it has such a significant impact. But the return of Derek Brown is astronomically huge, and we've added some serious firepower with the rookies and free agents. So here's the rundown. Let's start with the main man, the man with the plan, Derek Brown. Dude's an absolute beast, standing at 6'5", weighing in at 320. He is only 27 years old. We all know he's from Auburn. War Eagle, let's go. Cam Newton, you the man. Sorry, I had to put that in there. But anyways, this man is the anchor of our defense. Point blank, period. Again, he missed all of 2024 with that meniscus tear, but in 2023, he had 15 quarterback hits and over 100 tackles. He is back, ready to wreak havoc on running lanes and the quarterback. Expect him to be right back in Pro Bowl form in 2025. And folks, if you're following the team, you listen to my pod, I don't have to break down Derek Brown for you. He is the man. He is the defensive tackle that not only we need, but all teams want. Moving on, Bobby Brown III, one of our additions, absolute hog molly. He stands at 6'4", 332 pounds, only 25 years old. And before I even break down and move on with him, I said it when we were thinking about targeting him, and also in my podcast that I did with Smooth, my first guest on my show. We talked about it, we broke it down, and I even said getting a guy like Bobby Brown at 25 years old, that's almost like getting a draft pick. Right. And I said that to my guy Smooth. And sure enough, if you watch the blueprint, the little special that the Panthers have with the inside scoop of things that happen in the war room and all that other stuff, that's literally what Dan Morgan and Dave Canales said. That's like getting a free draft pick. Hello, it's a no-brainer. But again, 25 years old, Bobby Brown III from Texas A&M, signed from the Rams, where he had 19 tackles in the sacks last year. This dude is a tank, built to stop the run next to Derek Brown. His size is going to make running backs think twice. And again, what was one of the biggest issues we had last year, folks? Stopping the run. You bring a guy that's 330 plus pounds that can literally, clog up lanes like nobody's business, it's going to be hard to run on us. And that's the whole point of why we brought him in. Moving on, another great addition to our defense, we got Tershawn Wharton, Big Turk. He comes in at 6'4", 280 pounds, and he is only 27 years old. He's from Missouri. We got him from the Chiefs as a free agent pickup. We only had a few sacks as a rotational guy there, but he will definitely be bringing that savvy to the pass rush. We all know Big Turk. He's got a couple of rings. The dude is built like an absolute ox, and he is going to bring some serious heat to that line and really help us start moving the pocket from the inside. That's what we need to do. We need to get that inside pressure. He's going to be able to help bring that. Again, just with Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, and Big Turk, we are already looking at a huge upgrade for our defense, folks. Massive upgrade. Very excited for this. But I want to keep this short and sweet because we got a lot to break down here. So let's move on to another one of our depth guys here. We got Shy Tuttle. So before we break him down, we have a little tidbit on this. We have to understand that last year obviously was last year, but we had our rotational guys starting. Now, we all would like to believe that, hey, these guys can play as good as Derek Brown and they should play at a high level because they get paid the big bucks. But in actuality, that's not reality, right? These guys are rotational guys, right? For a reason, because they're not Derek Browns, right? They don't play at Derek Brown's level. They don't play at a Von Miller level. They don't play at these guys' levels, right? That's why the rotational guys, they're still in development and they're not going to be able to get you the results or the production that you would like to see, unless you're one of those Super Bowl teams that have starter quality depth. That's how you become a championship team, having the starter quality depth, which we're in that process now. So moving on, Shy Tuttle, 22 solo tackles last season, 24 assists combined for 46 tackles. He had 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. He had no sacks. His PFF grades were underwhelming. and he was ranked 190th out of 219 defensive interior linemen. Not too good. And then his PFF grade for pass rush was 51.4, which was 198th. His run defense was atrocious with a 33.5, 205 out of 219 defensive interior linemen. Woof. Now, no knock to Shy Tuttle. He did what he had to do. He had to step in and kind of take that starting role. I honestly would have liked to see a little more out of Shy Tuttle. You know, he was definitely talked up big time when we signed him a couple years ago from New Orleans. Everybody was saying that he was a great, player. He could definitely bring some juice for us and make big plays. We have yet to see that. Not saying that he's not capable of that. However, we need to see more out of him, which I feel like we will this season now that he's going to be more in a rotational role and not have to be the main guy. So look for Shy Tuttle to kind of rebound this season. I feel really good about that. Moving on. LeBrian or LeBrian Ray, however you want to say his first name. We'll go with LeBrian. But anyways, he had 9 starts last season. He recorded 15 solo tackles. He had 26 assists for a combined total of 41 tackles. He did have 1 sack. He had no interceptions, forced fumbles, or fumble recoveries. However, he did have an increased role after Derek Brown going down, and also leading to him taking 40% of defensive snaps in all his appearances. A career high for him. So somebody, again, that you're not going to get Derek Brown production from. Like I said, this is all about the production that you're going to get from your depth. You're not going to get starting production from your depth. And if you do, you have a championship formula in place, because if your rotational guys are just as good as your starters, or if not better, you're in good shape. But look for LeBrian Ray to also have a little bit more of an impact now that he doesn't have to be the main guy. So someone I want to shout out to here that we went over already was A'Shawn Robinson. He played in 16 games, had 43 solo tackles, 37 assists, with a combined 80 tackles. Let's go. I already broke it down. He had 5.5 sacks, forced fumble. The dude was an absolute monster for us. He didn't have the best PFF numbers, but he was one of the better players for us last year with all the injuries. One of the highlights for us in that group, and that was exceptional. So I'm very excited that he will return for us this year. These guys that I just mentioned, Shy Tuttle, LeBrian Ray, A'Shawn Robinson, like I said, these guys were our starters last year. They were basically our starting defensive front. Not good. We're not going to do anything with that. And we didn't. We were historically bad. Proof's in the pudding. You have rotational guys, and I said it in my defensive struggle pod last year. You got guys that are rotational starting, you're not going to win. You're not going to be good, and we don't have the depth. We don't. So we've seen it. We're improving it, and this is why I'm super excited about this spot specifically, as being a defensive guy myself. This is where the money's made, folks. This is where the money's made. Defense wins championships, and we got to have the depth with the starter quality. So, A'Shawn Robinson, great job, big dog. Looking forward to seeing you come back this season and tear it up in that rotational role where you don't have to put all the weight on your shoulders. I love it. Moving on, we're going to go to our depth players here. I'm just going to quickly run down our depth players. We have a tremendous amount of new bodies on our team. So I'm not going to get into full detail about everybody. I'm just going to give them a quick shout out, try to say some of their names, because some of these guys, I don't even know who they are. I'll be perfectly honest. Looking at the depth chart and all the UDFAs that we acquired and some guys through trade, I don't really know too much about them. I'll be perfectly honest with you, but I have dug up my research on them, because I always do my research before doing these pods. However, again, I might butcher some of these guys' names, so please bear with me. Again, I haven't even heard an announcer say these guys' names, so I don't even, I'll do my best. But first up, we got Jaden Crumdy. We know him. Jaden Crumdy's obviously a guy we drafted last year, a potential hopeful to be a future starter. I can't say nothing but great things about Jaden Crumdy. He's definitely going to come around for us and hopefully be a starter in the near future. But right now, he's fighting for snaps with all these other players that I'm about to mention, along with Cam Jackson, another guy that we just drafted this season. He's also fighting for spots. He's a big dude at 6'6", 328, a little raw, but could become a problem down the line. And then honorable mention to Popo, I'm going to say Amave. We'll go with that. Amave. Popo Amave. Then we have Jared Harrison Hunter and Sam Roberts. Okay, so honorable mention to these depth players that are fighting for snaps. Amave or Popo and Jackson bring size for the run defense. And again, well, Crumdy and Harrison Hunter are developmental pieces, but still are going to add that depth and also add that size. That's what we're looking for. Guys that are hog mollies, space eaters. You're going to see all of our defensive interior linemen are going to have a similar body structure. Okay, big, tough, and nasty, because that's how we play. Let's get it. So, honorable mention to those guys. But this D line, folks, Panther Nation, this D line is night and day from 2024. Night and day. I can't tell you enough. With Derek Brown back, Bobby Brown the third plugging up the middle, and then some edge rushers that we're going to talk about bringing the heat. We should see way fewer rushing yards, more sacks, and better production. The question is, can these young guys step in early? I know I'm optimistic about it. How do you feel, Panther Nation? Please hit me up on X, DM me, whatever you want to do. You can even go ahead and just at me and tell me that my pod's trash. I'm okay with that too. But don't be afraid to engage. Let me know what you think, folks. But now let's move on to the linebackers. All right, the almighty linebackers, folks. Let's move on to the linebackers. All right, this group had issues last year. 50% third down conversion rate allowed. Yikes. 6.6 touchdown rate on passes. Yikes. Coverage and run defenses were shaky, and losing Josey Jewell to a concussion issues early in July ain't going to help. But we have got Trevin Wallace and Christian Rozeboom leading the charge. So let's break this down. Trevin Wallace, drafted him last year. Kid's an absolute stud. I was 100% big on him. There was a lot of, we could have got some other guys. Oh, we got the right guy. 6'2", 237 pounds. He's 22 years old, from Kentucky. He led the team with 85 tackles last year, plus a sack and a pick. But his 58.7 PFF grade shows he's got to tighten up in coverage, which we know that. And in this scheme, Evero needs guys that can cover. We need coverage linebackers. Please bring me back Luke Kuechly, because ain't nobody throwing on his ass. I know that's right. Pardon my French. But he is our starting inside linebacker, and I am expecting him to take a major leap in year 2 here coming up. He is going to be more than likely that leader in that linebacker room, along with Christian Rozeboom, making all those calls, being the quarterback on the defense type thing. And I really have high hopes for Trevin Wallace. The guy's an absolute scud missile when he comes down to tackle. He brings all the juice, everything we need. I have absolute nothing but the best things to say about Trevin, and hope him nothing but the best. And we are going to see a nice uptick in his production. Trust me on that. Moving on, Christian Rozeboom, an acquiree this season from the Rams, standing at 6'2", 230, 28 years old. He's from South Dakota State. At least that's where he went to college. Like I said, he signed from the Rams, where he had a pretty good year last year. He'll be starting next to Wallace and taking over for Josey Jewell. His coverage skills are a little bit better, and that's kind of why we brought him in. Also, on top of that, he knows the scheme well, because he used to play with our defensive coordinator. So he can kind of come in. He knows the playbook. He can hit the ground running. And I'm pretty sure, I forgot what season it was, but he had over 100 tackles. So this guy, and he only played like 13 games or something like that. Absolutely insane. So this guy's a tackling machine, and he can cover well. He kind of reminds me a little bit of like, I'm going to say an AJ Klein. I don't want to say Luke Kuechly, because that's setting the bar kind of high. He's like an AJ Klein. We all remember AJ Klein. That was my guy, bro. Iowa, I'm going to tell you right now, Iowa product linebackers, those guys are always good. Iowa really does good at, developing linebackers 100%. But shout out to AJ Klein. That was my guy. But yeah, Christian Rozeboom kind of reminds me of him a little bit. And again, like I said, his coverage skills will help us against covering tight ends 100%. Now, my underrated duo right here. We have my man, DJ Woonem, standing at 6'5", 258. He's only 28, folks. 28. South Carolina product. He played 8 games last year, coming off a quad injury, but he still got 4 sacks and had a 12.1 pressure rate. He was basically the best edge rusher we had last season. Look for him to be our starting edge rusher, and look for him to bring the juice more if he can stay healthy throughout the season. I have very high expectations for him and the next gentleman that I'm going to talk about, because they used to play together, and this is my underrated dynamic duo. So DJ Woonem, I know he got a lot of flack, but the dude's an absolute stud. He has what it takes. And again, I'm not saying these guys are, all pros or Hall of Famers. They're just better than what we had, right? I'm not saying that he's better than Brian Burns, but, he's definitely a guy that can play the position, play it well, and get us some production at half the price. So I ain't mad about it. Moving on, Pat Jones the second. Again, DJ Woonham and Pat Jones both played on the Vikings. Look for these guys to be a dynamic duo, in my opinion. And as I already had stated before, 1,000% underrated. I already see a lot of people already down in this tandem. It's hilarious. These guys haven't even played yet, and we're already saying that they're not going to be good. Anyways, Patrick Jones, the second, stands at 6'4". He's 260 plus pounds. He's only 27. If you're catching the trend here, these guys are all young and ready to get after the quarterback. That's what we need. From Pittsburgh, they build good guys over there in Pitt. They know how to develop linebackers, but he was a free agent pickup from the Vikings, where he had 7 sacks last year. And again, he will be a serious pass rush player for us. He's going to bring that juice. And in my opinion, I feel like he could even break out if he gets enough snaps next to this defensive line that we just talked about, our new and improved defensive line, and playing next to DJ Woonham, a friend of his that he can feel comfortable, get to know the scheme, build that chemistry, and get after some quarterbacks. But look for these guys to really kind of elevate this defense to another level that we all been hoping and looking for. And I really believe that DJ Woonham and Patrick Jones can make this happen. Now, moving on. Our rotational pieces / starter pieces are 2 draft picks that we all, I know, want to hear about. So who do we got up first? Nick Scorton. Stands at 6'4", 280. Only 21 years old, another Texas A&M product, a second-round pick who led the SEC with 10 sacks. Folks, the SEC is no joke. If he's leading the SEC in sacks, this kid was getting after it. But he's going to replace Jadeveon Clowney, who got cut post-draft. But this kid's athleticism could give us the pass rush pop we've been missing. All right, 100% he can bring us that juice that we've been missing. And now again, him in rotation with Pat Jones or DJ Woonham is incredible. I mean, now not only do we have 2 veteran starters that know what they're doing and can bring us some juice and some pop, we got some young studs that are going to be right in rotation behind them, giving our vets the rest and putting pressure on our opponents, linemen, and quarterbacks when they're gassed out. And these guys are fresh, hot off the press, ready to rock and roll at only 21 years old. Look out, folks. We are going to be extremely good. But look for Nick Scorton to challenge that starting spot with Jones and Woonham, eventually our solidified starter at that edge rush position. But moving on, we got Princely Imamielin. Absolutely love this guy. When I was doing my scouting report on him, I mean, this guy's spin move is like nobody's business. I'm telling you right now, his spin move is, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, he comes off that spin. It's called like a jab or something like that. Somebody was kind of breaking that down for me, that term. But golly, when he hits you with that, there is nothing tackles can do. There's nothing that, any offensive lineman can do except just hope that the quarterback threw the ball already. Because when he comes off that edge, he ain't missing. Just know that. If you didn't know already, Princely Imamielin has been tearing it up in camp, and he's been giving trouble to our offensive linemen, our vetted offensive linemen, and he has been looking good. But he's 22 years old, coming out of Ole Miss. He's a 3rd-round pick with 7 sacks last year in college. Again, he's going to be in a rotational spot for us, but he's got speed to burn. So watch for him to make noise on passing downs with Nick Scorton in that rotational role, and also challenge the starters for a starting role. But like I said, Princely Imamielin already making noise in camp. He's already burning our offensive linemen and getting after the quarterback. I mean, Dave Canales even had to have a conversation with him like, hey, buddy, you got to dial it back a little bit. You can't be hitting Bryce Young. You know what I mean? We're practicing. I like the effort, but you just got to dial it back. Me personally, I ain't mad about that. That's what we need to see. Our defense has been trash for the last couple of years. We need guys that are ready to step up and make some noise. That's what we need. So I love the energy, and I love the fact that we're getting these dogs 1,000%. So before I move on to some of our depth players, I want to talk about a guy that we just signed. So I will be honest with you, this is the second time that I'm recording the defensive breakdown because I missed a couple of guys. And I'm happy about it. I wasn't at first, but I'm happy now because we just signed Chris Barnes. And now I can break him down. But we got him over from Arizona. Chris Barnes, he's a linebacker. He played 2 seasons there. He appeared in 23 games with 6 starts in 2023. And then in 2024, he played all 17 games. He had 35 tackles with a career high of 2 sacks. Nothing too crazy, but he played 304 out of 509 snaps, and he played some special teams. So he brings a proven track record of tackling, situational playmaking, and special team prowess. And that's what we need. He's got some experience as a starter, and his versatility makes him a valuable depth addition, hence why we snagged him up late in training camp. He's likely going to contribute on special teams and as a rotational linebacker. However, I feel like he could possibly capitalize on his opportunities and potentially make a push for a starting role for us. But as for now, he will just be a rotational guy, but bringing some veteran presence and bringing some competitiveness to that linebacker room, which is pretty thin. So moving on to some rotational guys here, some depth pieces. We got Boogie Basham. I love this guy's name. Honestly, I hope he makes the team. But he's 6'3", stands at 6'3", weighing in at 274. He's only 28. From Wake Forest, came from the Giants with 12 tackles and a sack last season. Again, a rotational outside linebacker, good for special teams and pass rush situations. Again, not going to break down these guys too much, just going to give you little tidbits on them. I mean, these guys might not even make the team. So one guy that I am going to talk about here is the unfortunate, underwhelming performance of TJ Johnson. And again, we've all seen the video of, Avero in the war room, clapping it up, jumping up and down. Who's let's go. We traded up to get who? TJ Johnson, who's been very underwhelming. But he stands at 6'4", 260, 27 years old from Oregon. He only had 15 tackles and a half a sack last year. But this guy, even though he's a rotational guy, he needs to prove something at this point. Because honestly, the time's ticking. So if he doesn't figure it out, I can guarantee you we're going to ship him out. That's all I know. However, I would like to see some progress from him because I like to keep these guys, especially when I'm doing these pods. I'm doing a lot of digging. I'm doing a lot of research. So I like to keep these guys around just because, I got a little soft spot for him since, I'm a little bit more engaged. But moving on to our depth players, honorable mention, we have Claudin Chirelis. We have Thomas Incoom. We got Bam Martin Scott. These guys are all just some rotational linebackers for us. But, we all know Claudin. He had 35 tackles last year. He brings some reliable depth. He's not terrible out there. We also got, Incoom and Martin Scott. These guys are just special teams, local South Carolina kid just trying to make the roster. And then we can't forget about John Radigan and then Jacoby Wyndham. These guys are also been on the team last season and look for them to potentially up their role in that situational depth 100%. But to be perfectly honest with you, with the addition of Chris Barnes, I feel a little bit better, but we're still kind of thin at that linebacker position. So I would like to see something happen. But this group's success really hinges on Wallace and Roseboom stepping up in coverage, and then Jones and Woonham bringing that pass rush spark that we just talked about, which I really feel like they can. Again, I did say the depth is a concern, but I do like the potential. So tell me what y'all think, Panther Nation. Can these linebackers hold it down? Like I said, DM me, at me on X, 1NG_podcast. You could even tell me my pod sucks. That's fine. I love it. Let's keep it moving. Secondary breakdown. Now let's talk secondary. Last year, we gave up a 67.92 completion rate and 35 passing touchdowns. Yikes. With Xavier Woods and Jordan Fuller gone as free agents, we got some new blood here. So we're going to break that down. But let's not forget, we still got Jaycee Horn, our Pro Bowl corner. So here's the vibe. Jaycee Horn stands about 6'1", 200 pounds. He's only 26. We got him locked in for years to come. South Carolina product. He's going to be nasty. Our CB1, he had 50 tackles, 1 pick, and 10 passes defended in 2024 with a 68.4 PFF. He's a Pro Bowler with a fresh contract, but again, he was only ranked 57th among corners. But we know how it goes. If you're a Panthers fan, any good Panther player is always going to be overlooked, especially by PFF. They don't really give any of our guys good grades, even if they play well. But no big deal, because he's going to set the tone this season. We know it. He's got to lock in on zone coverage, but in man coverage, we all know he's a dog. We know what we're going to get out of J.C. Horn. Don't need to go into him too much. All I know is if you're a wide receiver, you better strap up, boys, because we're putting the clamps on him. Moving on, Big Mike Jack, standing at 6'1", 200 pounds too, little about around 210. He's 28, a little bit older, but still young. I mean, much younger than I am. He's from Miami. He's going to be our DB2. He had 60 tackles, 2 picks, and 8 passes defended last year. He had a PFF grade of 61.2 and re-signed him for his reliability and man coverage. He's a solid starter opposite of Horn. He brings the juice, but I would like to see a little elevation from Mike Jack this season in his play, along with J.C. Horn in their zone coverages. These guys are great at man coverage, but we play a lot of zone, so I'd like to see them get a little bit more sound in their zone coverage, but nonetheless, still 2 studs. Love these guys. Moving on. Trayvon Merrick, my favorite signing of the offseason this year. We needed a safety. I used to play safety. My man stands at 6'2", 200 pounds. Monster. 26 years old. TCU product. Absolute monster in TCU. Free agent from the Raiders, where he had 70 tackles, 2 picks in 2024. He will be our starting strong safety. And this guy is a run-stuffing machine and can also help clean up the deep ball issues. So not only can he come down and clean up and put a good lick on you, he can also drop back into coverage and, be a ball hawk when necessary. But look for him to be more of that box safety. He's going to come down and run support. He's going to blitz. He's going to, clean guys up. He's going to be putting the boomstick on guys. That's why we got him. Plus, he's young, and coming into a new scheme, he's going to have some learning curves, but look for him to kind of hit the ground running and be a rising star for us moving forward. Love Trayvon, and also for a little tidbit, I did say that he would be a perfect fit for us in my Blueprint podcast. So if you haven't checked out my Blueprint podcast, please go check that out. Matter of fact, check out a lot of my older pods, because a lot of stuff that happened in the season I called before the season starts. So go ahead. You don't believe me? Check it out. Check it out. But moving on, Dermontti Richardson. I got to talk about my guy here. I know that's one of my man Smooth's favorite players. So shout out to IBL Smooth. If you haven't checked his stuff out, go check him out at the B Lancaster on X. That's my guy. Shout out to Smooth, one of his guys here. But in 14 games, including 5 starts, he recorded 28 solo tackles, 23 assists for a combined tackle of 51. 1 interception, 2 passes defended, and also he basically tore it up for us in absence of having, honestly, a safety. And I don't want to say tore it up like he was our best player, but he played pretty decent for us, being only a rookie and, more or less an undrafted guy. So, I mean, you can't ask for much more from him. But this kid is absolutely a rising, starter for us. He's already solidified as a starter moving forward. Obviously, anything can happen. But I kind of like Dermontti. I'm not going to lie. Would like us to add another safety here, but not a big deal. If we roll out with Dermontti, I'm okay with that. I think we'll be okay if we roll out with Dermontti and Trayvon there. I think we'll be okay. So shout out to Mr. Richardson. Keep doing your thing. You're on the rise, buddy. I see you out there. Keep doing your thing. Moving on, Charles Smith-Wade. Charles Smith-Wade, honestly, is the whole reason why I had to re-record this. I don't know how I missed him. We're not going to talk about it, but moving on. The 24 solo tackles, 15 assists for a combined 39, 1 interception. One of them was against Baker Mayfield just before halftime there. 1 forced fumble, 1 pass defended, right? Primarily playing that nickel position. However, he's been tearing it up in camp along with Dermontti Richardson. They've been having really good camps and have been slotted in as the starting safety for Mr. Richardson. And then CSW has been slotted in as our starting nickel cornerback, which I'm 1,000% okay with. He's got the speed, he's got the traits, he's got some production to back it up, and this kid has a nose for the ball. When he is out there, he is very versatile, and he knows how to cover, and he can play sound ball. And he can also tackle very well, which is key being a corner. You have to be able to wrap up. You have to be able to come down and clean up. Maybe not as much as a safety, but you still have to be able to come and clean guys up. So Charles Smith-Wade, starting nickelback, Congratulations, you earned it. I was super big on him when we drafted him. A lot of people were scratching their head like, who's this guy? Yeah, now you know who he is. Now you know who he is. So shout out to CSW. Do your thing, my man. I love it. Moving on, draft pick, Lathan Ransom, another one of my guys. I'm a big Ohio State guy. Love Ohio State. We got Lathan Ransom. Honestly, if the stats ain't going to do it justice, you got to watch the games. You got to watch the tape. It's a little easier for me because I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm already watching. But this dude's just an absolute hit stick. Like, they made the hit stick after this guy. Like, I know he's younger, but you get what I'm saying. This guy lays the boom down. At 23 years old, standing at 6'1", 205 pounds, Ohio State product. Our fourth round rookie who had 60 tackles and 2 picks in college last year. But his physicality and coverage skills are promising. And trust me when I tell you, his physicality is unmatched. Like, when this guy comes to hit you, you're going to remember about it, and then you're going to be looking for his number on that field. Trust and believe me. Look for Lathan Ransom to kind of take an elevated role early on this season. Trust me, folks. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the safety position. Lathan Ransom is going to be extremely good for us. And honestly, in the 4th round, wow, what a steal. So moving on, though, Nick Scott. Not going to talk too much about him. We all know who Nick Scott is. If you're not sure who he is, Nick Scott is just an experienced veteran safety that we got from Cincinnati. He basically played in the scheme, our 3-4 scheme that Avero runs. He brings versatility and run support for us. Basically just a depth guy, not somebody you really want out there starting, but if he's out there, at least you know he has the experience, he knows the system, and he could be a good fill, stopgap guy, whatever. And that's basically all he is, so I don't need to really break him down that much. But, still honorable mention, Nick Scott. So now we're going to move into our depth here, where we have Mello Dotson. I mean, this guy's a rookie coming out of Kansas. He did have 4 picks in college. He is competing for that slot or CB3 role. But with CSW kind of stepping up and some other guys kind of stepping up, I could see him more towards the back burner. But he's also be kind of coming a fan favorite. So we'll see what happens with him. And then we got a Caleb Evans. He's 26 out of Missouri. Another guy from the Vikings. You might as well call us the Vikings 2.0. He had a few tackles in 2024. He's also fighting for the same position as Dotson. But overall, our depth players, we got Shamir Bartholomew, we got JT Brighton, we got Isaac Gifford, we have Jack Henderson, Corey Thornton, which, mind you, he's been getting cooked all camp long. But I believe he's a rookie, so I'm not going to beat him up too bad. But this dude's been getting cooked. We got Trey Swilling, and then we have Michael Reed. Gifford's got some range and could push for some safety snaps. But again, these guys are all fighting for a position here. And at best, they're going to be third stringers. So that's why I'm not going to get into the details too much. But I want to get them out there. So, like I said, these guys are just all camp hopefuls, roster spot hopefuls, nothing crazy. But the secondary has potential. With Merrick and Ransom, even though they're unproven in our systems, I still feel like they can bring the juice necessary to elevate us. Horn's got to stay healthy. And again, if one of these guys can pop off like CSW or even, some of these other honorable mentions that I made at our depth and our secondary, we could see a lot less than 35 passing touchdowns, hopefully. But you let me know what you think, Panther Nation. What's the word? Do you feel like the secondary's kind of transitioned up? Do you feel like it elevated? Let me know. Again, even if you want to tell me that my podcast sucks, go right ahead and at me at 1ng_podcast. All right. And let me hear all about it because I would love to know. And don't tell me you're not listening because I can see the results and I know y'all are listening. And I greatly appreciate that. I just want to talk about something real quick. So let's wrap it up with the big picture for 2025. The Panthers defense was a hot mess last year in 2024. In yards, points, you name it. But let's check the glow up. Derek Brown, back. Nick Scorton and Princely Amamielen are ready to eat quarterbacks. And Bobby Brown III plugging up the run game. We are back on track, folks. We are back on tracks. And then at linebacker, we got a promising rising star here in Trevin Wallace and a potential dark horse in Christian Roseboom, right? These guys got to step up in coverage, but I feel like they will be very good in the scheme and be able to also help elevate us. On top of that, we have Patrick Jones and DJ Woonham, and I said it already, my underrated pass rush duo. These guys are really going to be much better than a lot of people think. Trust me. But in the secondary, we got JC Horn, our lockdown guy. We got Mike Jackson holding it down. We brought in, like I said, Trayvon Merrick and Ransom. They're going to be bringing that fresh energy and that hit stick. Bro, I'm telling you right now, offensive coordinators, quarterbacks, linemen, running backs, wide receivers, all of that. Y'all better watch out. Y'all better watch out because we're coming this year. We're coming for y'all this year. We're not going to be the same old Panthers. We're not going to be the same old defense where you could just do whatever you want. We have made dramatic improvements. Obviously, it depends on, the majority of the units staying healthy, but I feel like we have really revamped this defense. So, some challenges are there. Our safeties are new to the system, and the linebacker is thin. Like I said, the linebacker depth is thin, and Horn's health is always a question, but when he's on, he's elite. So, my bold prediction, this defense jumps from 32nd or last place to a top 15. Top 15 defense. And that's going to be thanks to Brown's return, Scorton in the mix with Princely and Yellen. This run defense should go from laughable to respectable. So what's the future look like, Panther Nation? I'm seeing a defense that's young, hungry, and ready to prove that 2024 was just a fluke. So let me know what y'all think. Hit me up on X at 1NG_podcast. Drop a comment on YouTube or wherever you're listening, and let me know who's your breakout star for the defense this year. Is it Scorton? Is it Ransom? Is it somebody else? And also, don't forget, I'm dropping that new gear very, very soon. So stay locked in, folks. And until next time, Panther Nation, keep pounding. Chef B out.